back to Good Morning Sri Lanka. We are on a very, very on-fire discussion about being passionate and having potential and experience when it comes to getting to our workplace. But of course, we were initially discussing the HR forum, which is going to be held on the 30th of April, led by Professor David Ulrich, all the way from the USA, who is doing a little bit of world tour, like Radley was mentioning before. And of course, we are very privileged to have him here. So more information on that we will also discuss very briefly at the end of the show. If you have missed any of our segments, please go on YouTube and check us out there. All right, so we were talking about passionate people. And you said, Dinesh, that it's very important to recognize the passion as well as the experience. So let's continue from there.
Yeah, so I think when we look at, especially for organization like ours also, I mean not only our, I think any organization, we look at who are your next level of leaders. So when we actually recruit, like I mentioned, you want people who are passionate about it. We want people who think that, I'm going to achieve, these are my goals, objectives. It's not the norm, but I think, that's the kind of people we have to start looking at, because end of the day, these are the people who are going to go and create things, because we are in the IT field, we are in the HR field, we are in the mobile field, we do these two. You need people who can innovate constantly. So innovation comes with people who think differently. So to bring people who think differently, you need people who have that passion, who thinks, who are also on the left side of the field, but that's how you want to bring them together. And that's what, as organizations, we have to look at that, because I don't think that's been a traditional way. And, you have to, even with your managers, who your recruitment managers, you need to be able to tell, okay, we need people who are diverse, you need to bring in, because one thing that we see in any organization, if you really look at, people like to hire people of their mold. They don't
I was just about to mention it. Go ahead.
So that's what we need to break.
Right. And how do we break that? So how does Senate break it? Let's put it out briefly.
Yeah. So I think the part of it is training. You need to constantly talk to your managers and say, and always, one of the things that we try to practice is that, recruit the guys who are smarter than you are.
Wow, that hardly is done here.
It is,
but
that's where we have to do it, because I always say, if I can have a bunch of smart people around, who are smarter than I am, because I will strain more, I will be able to do the company, the company will do better.
Absolutely.
So it's so we always say, hire people who are smarter than you are. It's said easy, done very difficult. But I think that's what you have to be able to encourage, and it's a long process.
And which part does the HR department of organizations hold in recruiting these kind of people who are diverse?
Exactly. So HR actually has a bigger role in that, because the thing is, the CEO or the senior managers don't have all the time in looking at the line management, like the line recruitment. So HR has that role to play. They need to be able to always talk about and say, how do you do your recruitment? Part of it is, attracting and recruiting, and then retention. I think we talked before, and so, how do you retain this kind of people?
Yeah, how do we keep hold on?
So the main thing is give them challenges, challenge them, recognize them. And a lot of time, rewarding doesn't mean, giving you monetary rewards, giving them more challenges, giving them exposure. Some of the things that we talk about is that, if you have that, you have a lot of international exposure, because we send people all over the world. We have, we are in 14 countries in Africa, we are in Australia, New Zealand, all these countries. So you get an opportunity to travel, widen your horizons, which will help your own organizations.
That's true.
I think there's a recognition and appreciation that comes at the bottom line. And today, it's I think the role of the HR person also changed, because they become more partners in the business, and you expect the HR people also to understand the business a lot in which you're working in. I mean, you cannot be isolated, you cannot have your sort of rules and regulations. Yeah, you have to basically understand and get a good feel of what the business is, the pulse of the people on the street who go out there and bring the business for you. If you don't understand that, it's really tough.
Yeah. Retaining people with fire in the belly. Is it done adequately in this contemporary period of time?
I think sadly it's not. I think, because I think that goes back to traditional education system.
Really?
I always say that, because what we say is, you should be listening, rather than talking. You know, I mean, that's where, you know, if you look at, because some of the biggest challenges we have in our own workplace when we recruit people at the very early stage is, you know, getting them to talk, you know, being able to express their views. You know, and it's not easy, you know, that's where, because, you know, for us, you know, because for the IT field, you know, we get more than maybe 60-70 people from universities, and some of them actually come from rural Sri Lanka.
Of course, yeah,
you know, because IT field is one of the fields that actually recruit, you know,
in bulk
in bulk in these areas, and that's where we see that those kind of challenges. You know, I'm not. I don't
wonder
say
whether
that
it's really some sort of a cultural thing as well, because even I go around to a lot of schools, universities, make presentations. For that matter, even if we sometimes have a forum of even some senior executives, it takes a bit of time for them to come open out here, and that, as you quite rightly said, I think it's the education system.
And we have been told.
That's such, I mean, to put it in a political context, it's such a crime because it's such a waste of time, and it's waste of energy, because what I believe is that, you know, participating in Q&A sessions, being actively involved in this kind of event, and you know, when a new kind of new knowledge comes to you, grasping it with and being curious about it, I think that has to come from the inside. And we have been, I think, just like you said, it must be a cultural thing, because we have been trained to listen and not to speak, and to be humble, and to, you know, calm down and obedient. And if there's someone senior, you know, do not question his authority or his knowledge. I think that's a very traditional thing in Sri Lanka. But I'm sure these days the Y generation must be, you know, into a big change.
And I think another reason is the language barrier.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because when it comes to communication, it's all, and then we have this thing of being shy, you don't want to be laughed at, so you have to get them out of that mentality.
That's so true.
And I'm talking of the younger ones, but I think once you start working in organizations, you get used to the people, and certain organizations actually now encourage you to talk out. I mean, there are various things that they do, and I think that's the need of the hour, and our young students should really be going out down that road, because I've had the opportunity of actually, because being SEMA, and Sri Lanka is the regional office for SEMA, so we travel to Bangladesh, Pakistan, all, and when you compare some of the students in those schools and ours, our guys are really one step back in that context.
Are you serious?
Coming out and talking, you know.
Even with our neighboring countries?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Very funny, though.
Wow,
that's and I always say it's there, but to give credit to some of the schools, some of the groups now, I think they have realized it, and that's why they invite in bodies like us to come out, conduct certain programs, seminars, to get the kids out of this. But in our education system, it depends on who's heading a particular school, right?
So it depends on the authority.
On the authority, very much. So if somebody in a school has that vision and cares for the kid, there, but it's not something which unfortunately is there as a blanket thing available to everybody.
It's not widespread.
Let's
talk more about this after a very, very short commercial break. We are going to a short commercial break right now. Be right back after this message. Welcome back to Good Morning Sri Lanka. We are in conversation with Mr. Radley Stephen and Mr. Dinesh Sapramadu all about the event that is going to be held on the 30th of April 2014 in the Water's Edge, led by Dr. David Urich, the contemporary HR guru, internationally known as the HR guru. So we were discussing about how important HR is, and developing human resources in organizations, in schools, and bring it into the spotlight in the Sri Lankan context. So right now, getting back to the event, gentlemen, let's discuss about the course content. What will Dr. David be addressing as the keynote speaker? What will he be addressing in this event, and how important it is once again for all kinds of people from all kinds of fields to come and absorb his knowledge in this event? Is there anything particular that you need to discuss about the course content?
So I think I can tell something on the area from a CEO forum, and I think that is for building competitive organizations. So he will actually bring a lot of his knowledge and his experience, and talk on how as leaders that we should be actually looking at that transformational process and how we should be able to kind of bring that knowledge and to really internalize it in your own. I think that's the key. How do you internalize it in your own organization, and how do you execute that so that actually you get superior results, during and it's also a journey that you go through that, but I think you'll be able to share some of that knowledge very much.
And Dr. Dale Ulrich is very specifically passionate about leadership and competency, as we discussed before. So basically this will be very important for the CEO forum, which will be held in the evening hours. I also was just curious to know about when you invited him to hold this event in Sri Lanka. Is there anything in particular that he was interested in discussing within Sri Lanka, or will he be actually addressing something globally general?
I understand it will be something globally in general, because it's based, he's put out a new book.
Right.
And, so he'll be talking about the learnings there. And I think he's going to bring in a lot of, and which is actually important in Sri Lanka, because you are looking at going global and things like that. Some of the practices and the expertise which he has been able to share with some of the international organizations which he's going to bring in. And that is, I think, what Sri Lanka is looking at a lot. And even if you look at the government sector, they are looking at capacity building at the moment. And that's why we've seen a lot of interest even from the government sector for the morning's program. Exactly.
That's very important.
And we of course sent out some invitations. In addition to that, we have seen some of the, like Petroleum Corporation, Electricity Board, sort of subscribing for the program, the morning's program, which is a good signal, because today we see even the government sector understanding the need for HR management.
Yeah, I've noticed that a bit too, regarding, when you handle different groups and communities, especially being a lecturer, it's quite evident that people are interested right now, like you said, in investing in human beings, investing behind students and making them aware of the fact that there's a whole new world out there. It's not just, studying, and it's not just getting involved with the activities within the universities and schools. There's an entirely competitive world out there that we should all be ready for. Anything else that you want to mention about the event, gentlemen, that the viewers need to know? How to participate in it?
Talking about the morning's program, of course, we start at 9 o'clock, where we asked everyone who has not purchased their tickets as yet, they can always contact the CIMA division, who is actually the secretariat for this particular program, and to please come in on time, because we are talking about at least 750 to 800 people coming in, and getting into the waters edge is not all that easy. So come early, get your seats.
Find your parking.
It's a completely different arrangement, and in some that we are trying to get them as close to the professor as possible, the way the seating arrangements have been made. So I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy this experience, and we invite them to make use of this opportunity, because you never know whether he will come back to Sri Lanka again or not.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope he'll come back to Sri Lanka and bring another group of executives with him. I'm sure that Sri Lanka is in much need of that sort of personnel, So thank you very much for joining us today at Good Morning Sri Lanka. I'm sure the viewers enjoyed the show and learned a lot out of it. Thank you so much for being here and for taking your time out of your busy mornings in order to be here. And we wish you all the best at the event, and hopefully we will see you around once again, organizing such really good events that are important to Sri Lanka these days in all sort of in every area, in all sort of ways. Thank you for joining us today, all you people out there. 30th of April is the date that you should keep free if you are interested in being involved in this particular event. And don't forget that it is held at the water's edge. For more information, you can always contact Mr. Radley and Mr. Dinesh according to the dates that they mentioned. And until then, until we see you tomorrow, have a beautiful day and rock on.